In negotiations, clarity is important. Both sides should know what they want. And in Ukraine, they sort of do. Russia wants to turn Ukraine into a broken state. Ukraine wants to beat back the Russians. Broadly, this is where they stand. But equally important is a middleman or the broker. What is their motive? In this case, the broker is the US President, Donald Trump. He is bringing Ukraine and Russia to the talking table, but no one knows what he wants. What is his plan for Ukraine? All that he's repeatedly said is this.
Hopefully we could save thousands of people a week from dying. That's what it's all about. They're dying. It's really humanity. We're talking about humanity. We're not talking about the money. We're losing 2,000 human beings every week. More than that, actually. 2,000 nice, young. I've seen the pictures. I've seen the satellite photos and lots of other photos, and it's a horrible thing that's happening. Thousands of people are dying a week.
Trump used to own the Miss Universe competition. And that's a remark straight out of it. I want to end the war and suffering. Well, everybody wants that. The question is, how is Trump achieving it? His plan appears to have two parts. Part one is to recoup the money from Ukraine, the aid money from Ukraine. And second is to push for a ceasefire. The first part is going to plan. President Zelensky has agreed to sign the minerals deal. He will share Ukraine's resources with the US. Trump says the deal will be signed shortly.
One of the things we are doing is signing a deal very shortly with respect to rare earths with Ukraine, which they have tremendous value in rare earth, and we appreciate that.
The US president wants to go further. This week he floated a new idea. What if the US took over Ukraine's nuclear power plants, basically bought them off Kiev? Zelensky rejected the idea yesterday. He said he's open to American investments, but he's not open to selling Ukrainian power plants.
All nuclear power plants belong to the people of Ukraine. President Trump asked me what I thought about the plant. I told him that if it is not Ukrainian, it will not operate for anyone else. It is illegal. We can't just dispose of this plant because it's state-owned.
That's what Zelensky said about the mineral deal too. He said he would not sell his country, but weeks later he's doing exactly that. So who knows, maybe Zelensky will change his position again. Either way, that is part one of Trump's plan to make money out of Ukraine. And there is no ambiguity about it. The second part, though, is full of ambiguity. No proposals, no terms, no demands, and no deadlines. It's all very vague at the moment. And this partial ceasefire is a classic example of that. Russia says Ukraine has already broken it. On Wednesday, Kiev struck an oil depot in Russia, in the region of Krasnodar. Moscow says that attack violated the ceasefire. Meanwhile, Russia too is escalating. They launched a barrage of drones at Ukraine's Odessa city. Take a look at this. So the Trump truce is teetering because it wasn't based on trust or concessions. It was the product of Trump's conviction. That may be enough to bring both sides to the table, maybe even for a partial truce. But it's not enough for peace. For that, you need a concrete plan with different steps and timelines. Just look at the Gaza deal. First step was releasing hostages. The second was a permanent ceasefire. The third was rebuilding. That was the plan. The reason it failed was not the lack of a roadmap. It failed because there was no political will to impose it. Why doesn't Trump have such a plan for Ukraine? To understand that, we must look at the motive. Why does Trump want peace? He loves to flaunt his anti-war credentials, but some of his ex-allies say he's not interested in peace. He is interested in what comes with it, possibly a Nobel Peace Prize. I know it sounds too ridiculous to be true, but Trump's own officials have talked about it, like National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Listen to what he said in February.
By the end of this all, we're going to have the Nobel Peace Prize sitting next to the name of Donald J. Trump. And who opposes peace? How do the Democrats oppose?
Personal ambition could be one reason. Another is strategy. Trump doesn't see Russia as America's chief rival. That would be China. In his first term as president, he accelerated America's pivot to the Indo-Pacific. Even now, his top officials are China hawks. And where does Russia come in? Russia and China have deepened their ties in the last decade. They now have what they call a no-limits partnership. And Trump wants to break this up. He wants to drive a wedge between China and Russia. Listen to what he said this week.
As a student of history, which I am, and I've watched it all, the first thing you learn is you don't want Russia and China to get together. They're probably friendly now, but we're going to be friendly with both.
Experts are calling it the reverse Nixon. I'll explain why. In the 1970s, the US broke up the partnership between China and the Soviet Union. Richard Nixon was US president back then. He reached out to China and he split them up. Trump is doing the reverse. He is reaching out to Russia instead of China. Different approach, same goal. Is that why Trump is desperately pushing for peace in Ukraine to make inroads in Moscow? Well, at this point, we can only speculate. But what's clear is that Trump does not have a concrete plan. Perhaps he wants the flexibility to work things out, or his team is genuinely clueless. Either way, we'll be tracking his moves closely. Do you think that Ukraine is at its weakest position?
This war is not about Ukraine.
Do you believe that your president was insulted? Yes or no question. Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Diplomacy will work?
Yes,
Do you think
will.
Russia will give up the territory if there is no ceasefire? Do you propose to keep fighting?
We are ready to resist.
Do you think there will be peace?
Many countries gave us 3 days.
President Trump said you don't have any cards.
We do not have another choice.
How do you keep fighting?
You ask me once again the same question.
Because you've not answered my question.
We have enough capacities to keep fighting.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Lakshman.
Good afternoon.
Making headlines in India well before you landed here.
New Delhi has raised concerns in the recent past vis-a-vis the Khalistani separatists that operate in New Zealand. How do you propose to address these concerns?
In our democracy, we believe in the freedom of speech.
Organizations like the Al-Qaeda or ISIS were to hold a referendum in New Zealand, something related to one of your Western partners. Would you say the same?
We have very well-defined laws in our democracy.
No specific conversation on Khalistan on this visit.
It was raised with me. I also raised back our position.
Are you willing to be open to these concerns from New Delhi?
As I keep coming back to you to say, we have strong laws in our system.